Welcome to Life Expressions. I'm your host, Chari Hineri Elon. It's such a great day today because we are celebrating Azim's birthday. Yeah. Happy birthday! Happy birthday, Azim!
Thank you.
How does it feel to be younger?
It feels great to be alive, and every day is a birthday for me.
Oh, I love that.
One day is the official birthday, but every day of the year is a birthday.
Of course. Well, as you know, we are joined by Farzana and Azim, who's celebrating his birthday today.
Today is the only day we have, and we have to make the most of it. And we have 86,400 seconds today,
Yes.
which if I don't use, it's lost.
Yes.
I cannot carry forward or carry back.
Yeah.
And living it fully is the secret to life.
I love that. Wow. What an opening. If you like this episode, please be sure to share it with your friends and hit that subscribe button of Life Expression so you will be notified each time we have a new episode. I also wanted to invite you to please send your questions or your comments. If you have any questions around the topic that we are discussing today or any topic that you'd like to ask about, please send that through your comments on our podcast, and then we will try to answer your questions in the following episode. But today we are going to talk about service. Service is the first component of spark, igniting your spark. And so let me ask you, Azim, why service and what is service?
So service is, making an impact in somebody else's life, and including your own. And the power thing about service is nobody is deprived of service. Even if you are 90 years old, you're blind, you have no money, you are in ill health, you can also serve. How will you serve? By saying a prayer, by asking for forgiving somebody who has hurt you. So everybody can pray and everybody can make some difference in their own sphere, wherever they are in their life. So nobody's deprived of it. And when you serve, you tap into your genius, you tap into your creativity, because we are born to serve. We are hardwired to serve. We have an innate need to serve, and it's a spark ignition, and I think if you have closed fists, you cannot receive.
Mm-hmm.
If you give, you can also receive. The more in the flow of giving you are, the more giving flows through you. More in the flow of abundance you are, abundance flows through you. The more you keep on giving, the more you keep on creating, the more you keep on innovating, the more you keep on finding. A cow which stops giving milk cannot create more milk. A tree which is a fruit and nobody takes it, falls down and rots. A river which stops flowing stagnates, it dies. So when you stop giving, you stop creating.
What is service to you, Farzana?
I just want to add to what Azim was saying around service. I think what's also important is intangible.
Yes.
Right. And when you give, if you're giving willingly, there's no intention for you to want something back. And I think that's service. Service is just, I'm just going to give. If you get something, fabulous. If you don't, you're still getting something because there's satisfaction within you. So there's always something there for you.
True. For me, I believe service is doing something for others, like making sure that you think of the others first before yourself, and be done through actions. It could be done, as Azim said, through prayers, right? Thinking well about somebody, praising someone who's doing great and not competing with them, or cheering somebody on is already service. Is that right, Azim?
And also what Fazana said about intangible energy. When you pray for somebody, they get the energy. They may not look at the words, but the energy goes. And sometimes, when you have a with somebody and you're not getting along and something is really not working out. And the more, for example, if you and me have a tiff and you stop to trust me for some reason, and the more I try to convince you, the more you get the other way, because so I'm now lost. But if I pray for you and if I send you energy and if I wish you luck and all this, then suddenly you turn around because you get my energy without any physical movement.
Yeah.
So we have so much power to reach people, not just physically, but also emotionally, spiritually, and through intention.
Farzana, what would you like to add to that? How can we serve? What do we do? What do we say to serve?
It's not even something you have to say.
Yes.
It's just an act of something, right? It could be just you're walking down the street and somebody passes you and you say hello or good morning or have a good day, right? That's an act of service. It's just being kind and just being yourself. And if you can do more, fabulous. If you can't, that's okay too. You do what is best for you at the time that you're doing it. And it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Smile to somebody.
Exactly.
Like somebody feels good. Somebody smiled at me. And a smile takes two muscles. Frown takes 63 muscles. So why would you want to frown when you can smile?
Exactly.
And you do it for yourself because you'll be feeling better.
Yeah, I take great joy when someone tells me they come to me just to see me smile because it makes their day. And I would like to believe that is service already
Absolutely.
and doing my purpose, right?
You know, being happy is the biggest gift you can give others
Yes.
because you want to be around happy people because they uplift you, right?
Yes.
So, and if you're unhappy and you're miserable, then nobody wants to be around you. And, you know, your presence becomes a problem because everybody has to now worry about how to, you know, inspire you and whatnot. And sometimes, you know, I think of my grandfather, you know, he left India when he was 14 to go to Africa and he had nothing. And, you know, he's worked very hard for 40, 50 years. And eventually, by the time he became successful, sooner or later, he passed away. And people said, you know, your grandfather, you know, didn't really enjoy the success he created. But I disagree. I said, look, he came to Africa and wanted to create a family. He had 11 children, grandchildren, and he created a very strong foundation for all of us, you know, successful because of his contribution. And so he fulfilled his mission. And when he passed away, the local people didn't want his grave to go in the hearse, but they carried it for 3 miles because of the respect they wanted to give him. And to me, that's a purposeful life and a life of service.
Yes.
In his own way, he fulfilled his mission. May not be tangible, but could be intangible as well, right?
Exactly.
Sherry, I want to add or more ask a question. So, Azim, you mentioned the fact that if you're happy and you're around people that are happy, you know, how does that come into service?
So bottom line is, you know, service is to make impact in somebody else's life positively. So when you're happy and you're happy to be around, you're automatically helping other people around you feel good. So you're serving without serving because you're just being and sometimes if you have a spark, then your spark, you enter the room and the room changes. The energy changes because you bring the spark into it. But if you come up with all this toxicity and all this, you enter the room and the room gets so toxic because you bring that with you. So this is again the intangible power of service, right?
Yeah.
It is intangible and it is being appreciated as well. Like your simple things of doing for others, like picking your daughter up. That is service, right? Like doing something for others. But Azim said, it does not stop anyone from serving others, even if they have disabilities, right?
Nobody's deprived of serving. And that's the beauty, right? And when you serve, you feel good. You know, the best way to get happiness is to give happiness. When you make others happy, you feel happy. So, you know, it's a mutually beneficial outcome, right?
Yes.
And when you're miserable, you're wishing somebody harm, you're getting the harm yourself, right?
True.
So it's really about the universe is, you know, an accountant can keep track of numbers, how much money you spend, but the universe has its own accounting. Every good you do, in fact, in the Holy Quran, there's a kind of a paraphrase. It says, you know, when you give in the name of God, it's like a grain of corn that grows 7 years, and each year there's 100 grains. Such is the manifold reward for those who give.
Yeah.
So, you know, and the universe keeps track of all that.
Yes.
You know, and sometimes it doesn't come immediately, but it can come in the long term, right?
Yes. For Zana, is there a defining moment when your outlook or perspective about service has changed?
You know, I can't say that there was like, oh, actually, I can say there's a moment. And I think for me, service is just, like, and my family will agree with me, it's in our blood. It's what I grew up with. It's what I saw my parents do, my grandparents do, my aunts and uncles. Like everybody was just involved in some way, doing something and just being kind. And so it's in our blood. So if somebody calls me and says, I need you to help me do this, it's hard for me to say no. Of course, I've learned through Azim that there's certain things that no is still okay because there's different outcomes, right? But I would say there was an opportunity in 1991 when the Aga Khan at the time came to visit Canada, and they were in Edmonton, and I was part of this communications team, and we were literally locked in a small little room with walkie-talkies, and we're just communicating back and forth with, you know, thousands of volunteers that are outside taking care of everything else. And it was the very last kind of set where the Aga Khan was walking into a hall, and one of the leadership walked in and said, I need all of you like right now. And we were like, okay, but we're comms. Like we can't leave because if somebody has an issue, we've got to solve it. They're like, don't worry about this. I just need you right now. And what happened is they pulled us out and they put us on a runner where the Aga Khan was going to walk by. And as he was walking by me, literally it was seconds, but felt like minutes for me, was so profound and so important for not just me, but for my entire family. And it's because I saw a vision that came from him that brought peace to my family. And that was very defining for me, because I'm like, if this is a man who I am serving, and I'm serving to help him, and I'm serving to help others, and he can make that very special moment happen to bring peace to our family, there's something much bigger.
Yeah.
There's got to be something much bigger. So I would say that was one of probably many, but one that's sat with me for a very, very long time.
Yes, she has got 3 kids, and all these 3 kids are serving.
Yeah.
Her husband is serving, so I don't know how they do it. All 5 of them are always involved in so many things, and you wonder where it comes from. So as parents, with words you can only preach.
Yes.
Action you teach. So your actions, they learn from by seeing, not by hearing.
True. Exactly. Because I just want to add, right? Like children are like sponges. What
Yes.
they do not learn from what you tell them. They learn from what you show them.
Yes.
And that is very important. That is why we have that capacity to empower them and to influence them to be the person that we want them to be, or to help them reach, the best version of themselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of that also is when you bring in those values and show them this is what I'm doing,
Yeah.
whatever they take from it, is great. If they choose to not want to do something for a long period of time, don't stress about it.
Exactly.
Because one day they will surprise you.
Los Angeles, we had rented a car, and so my wife and my 2 children, we were driving around, and in highways it's so fast to drive in LA, but it was some of the alleys, and as I was driving, there was a bird sitting right near the pavement, and you had to swerve the car not to crush it. It was a dead bird, so no problem. We swerved, and I saw another car swerving, but something, didn't make me comfortable. I didn't want the thought of a car crushing it. What if the bird is dead? So I thought, let me go and put it on the pavement, right? So but there's all one ways. So I'm trying here, my kids are saying, where are you going? I said, I'm looking for the bird. He said, why? Anyway, so we went around and around, eventually found it. And luckily the bird was still there.
Yeah.
So I parked the car, came out of the car, and I took the bird, dead bird, put it in the pavement, came back in the car. As we were driving, the bird flew.
Oh man,
So
it was not dead
it's
at
not
all.
dead. Yeah, I mean, all you need is a nudge. So when I was sharing this story in South Africa, one guy put his hand up. I said, what? He said, you know what happened? I said, no. He said, you have a hand of God. It sounds funny, but we all have a hand of God. We're finding somebody who needs a little nudge, like the bird,
Yes.
to become alive. But we said, what's the point? And since then, my son, from that experience, every time he's driving, he has something in his car, like a food or some money. So when somebody's asking, he will give. Because he remembers that small thing can save a life.
Yes. Absolutely. Beautiful. Beautiful and so powerful.
Thank
right?
you.
Any moment gives you an opportunity to serve. Sometimes you're not even aware that you are serving. Like for yourself, you said, oh, that was just very important for you to do it, right? And you had to get out of your way, take more time to do that. And it was kind of dangerous because it's one way and you've got to park your car. So you get out of your way. When you serve, you also get out of your way, right?
I never thought about the one way, but now you're saying, it was one way. The car,
There's going to be cars coming from behind wondering what you're doing.
But there's natural health. There was no car behind. So it just works out, right? It's intention.
Yeah.
When you have the intention, then the universe, as you aspire, the universe conspires to help you.
Yes.
Because you have the intention to do something, and then things align and help you make it happen.
Have you ever had that experience when you just learned that I did something good for someone, and that when you have seen that person succeeding, you feel so much joy?
Yeah, I mean, that happens. And the most powerful thing, which might be surprising to some people, is when you do that and nobody knows.
Yes.
And you don't want anybody to know. And that joy is far, far more powerful than you get credit and people recognize it. And because then you got your reward.
Yes.
But when your reward is so nobody knows, that feels, so special.
Yes, your reward is in heaven.
Yeah.
It's called the silent service.
Yes.
And it's the internal. See, there's two kinds of rewards: external and internal. External reward is good, but it's temporary. Like happiness can be temporary. You go to a movie, you have a nice meal, you have,
Absolutely.
but internal happiness is permanent. And
Yes.
so that joy, which has no external reward, no title, no fame, no nothing, but within you, you feel privileged
True.
that I got the opportunity
Yeah.
to make a little difference in
Yes.
somebody's life.
Yeah. And that is immense joy
Yeah.
because and it's
It's
lasting.
permanent. It's permanent.
How about yes, you were about to
I was
say.
saying that it's if you look at it as a privilege, service is a privilege. It's not a burden, not a responsibility. It's a privilege, and only the privilege get more service. Or you take it, the more called on to do more, right?
Yes.
In terms of and yeah, if you look at families, the grandfather served, the father served, the kid serves, and it goes like in our family in this house.
Yes.
My grandmother, my dad's mom, even my mom's mom used to live here. My dad used to live here, and my daughter and my son. So my daughter was 3 years old. She saw my wife serve her mother-in-law, which is my mom, and she saw my mother, who was her grandmother, serve her great grandmother.
Yeah.
And if you grow up in a family like that, when you grow
Yes.
up, and now she's doing social work in Kenya, she left a high-paying job, traveled 60 countries, was a brand manager in Europe, managing 5 countries, did this MBA at the best university at Kellogg, left everything and went and started something fresh from nothing.
Mm.
Where does it come from? You can't teach these people this.
Exactly.
They learn from what they see around you.
Yes.
So whatever good we do, we don't realize it impacts the whole family, the children, and no matter how much advice you give them, it doesn't go anywhere near that, right?
Yeah. The good is actually generational. Blessings are generational, but curse can be generational too.
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
do you break that curse? Like if there is an instance when families like they're not able to serve, they're not able to do something good, there's always something that stops them from doing it. Is there a way?
Sherry, you already said it. You just have to get out of your way.
Yes.
Right? Like that's the thing. And you can believe that there's something that's holding you back, or you could call it a curse or somebody else or, another person, like it could, or a job, it could be anything.
Yeah.
But if that's what's holding you back, then yes, absolutely. You're not going to be able to do it.
People who haven't tested
Yeah.
the beauty and the bounty and the potency of giving don't know what they're missing. I think Mother Teresa's example that she was serving a lot of wealthy people in India. And one day she was walking and she saw somebody who was really struggling, and that experience made her change her whole life and become what she became. So all they need is a one experience where they find that I did something and wow, how it felt. And then you say, wow, this is priceless.
Yes.
I think the more people experience that joy, when I see, for example, as kids in the community serving, and suddenly they feel like young kids serving, right? And the joy they're getting, and also the lessons you learn, the lessons of teamwork, the lessons of articulation, the lessons of working with people who don't get paid are priceless. You can't learn in the corporate world. And when you go in the corporate world, they say, "Where do you learn all this stuff?" And you wonder, "Where did I learn this?" Oh, as in the volunteer work, I have to sing in front of 500 people, or I have to speak in front of 500 people. All these skills I'm learning without realizing that I'm serving, but I'm the beneficiary of the service.
Yes.
And I would add to that is in that you're also learning compassion. You're learning to understand, you may not get along with someone, but how do you still work with them? Right. And in a volunteer capacity, there's multiple personalities. You could walk away.
Yeah.
But in your job, you can't walk away. So these are opportunities where you get that you'll be able to learn these skill sets that are really, really important, and then take them out into the world and be like, okay, yeah, it's a difficult person, but I know how to deal with it because I've had these other opportunities to learn from.
Yeah.
I learned to speak. I was in England, okay, living so we had a prayer place where 20, 30 people come every Sunday. So when one day they were asking, they wanted to teach those 2 little kids something about faith. And so I put my hand up. I said, I can teach kids. I mean, I don't know much, but I can teach. That was my starting point.
Yeah.
Just by putting your hand up.
Yes.
And then when I came here, there was an event in town here where people were having a big conference and somebody had to speak for each of the units. And I was new, and there were 25 people, and they went around each one to do the talk. Who's going to do the talk? And each one said, I had a backache and my exams are tomorrow and I have my business problem.
Everybody's saying
And
no.
I'm the last one. Now, I'm the last one. I say yes. So I say yes. I didn't even know what the topic was about. I worked all night. I prepared. And when I went to speak, because in England I used to kind of read. I was the last speaker because our period was the most important. I got a standing ovation. I never looked back.
Yeah.
That one incident led to everything I'm doing now.
Yes.
By just putting your hand up.
Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes putting your hand up is all you need, and the rest is history, right?
Yeah. It's about getting out of your way, putting your hand up, and just giving a part of yourself, right? And you do not actually sometimes know it that you're doing it already because it's part of you. Like, I think that's what I've also learned from both of my parents, my father and my mother. They're very servicial. Like, my mother would always serve my father, and not just at home, but she used to serve, like, not just the church, the community, as well as my father. They would do it willingly without any recognition. Is there a moment that you can say, okay, I'm not going to serve for now. I'm going to rest. Or no, because it's just constant.
Well, yeah, I think sometimes you are tired and you feel that maybe by me getting involved may not be positive. I mean, as Fazana mentioned earlier, that I would say no, but for a deeper yes, because there are other areas where I am not qualified to serve, or I have I'm not the best person to serve. And so I say to myself, if I take that, it's going to be at the expense of something I can do more naturally and more effortlessly and more impactfully.
Yes.
Because you can't do everything, right?
Yes.
So those are the areas where how can you say no for a deeper yes, and how also by saying no, you find them somebody who can help better. I think those are the areas where, I think we talked about service mantra. Service mantra is you want to serve, but you want to serve in areas that you can make the highest impact because you only have so much time in the day.
Yeah.
And if you're going to say yes to everything, then you might end up serving in areas where you cannot make big impact. And then many people could do it, but you're not serving in areas that you are most qualified to do.
Yes. We're talking about service here and serving. Let's give them concrete examples. Very, day-to-day ways to serve. Let's start with you, Farzana.
Oh my. So day to day, like when you're sitting and saying a prayer, you're praying for everybody, right? Day to day. You feed your family. You happen to say, okay, I'm going to work today. You know what? I'm going to buy lunch for everyone. Right? Or buy coffee for somebody. Going through Tim Hortons drive-through, you're buying yourself a coffee, you're going to pay it forward and pay for the bill behind you and keep going, not even thinking twice, right? Just every day, walking down the street, going for a walk and saying hello to somebody that's walking by, have a good day, right? Like Azim said, smile. Doesn't take much,
Yeah.
right? So lots of things that you can do that are just serving.
Somebody does something good, acknowledging it and appreciating what they did because everybody is looking for some kind of validation. And you don't know what they're going through in their life. I remember once I read a story about, somebody wanted to commit suicide and wrote a note, says, I'm finished now and tomorrow I'm going to walk in the very busy street for 2 miles or whatever. And I will meet hundreds of people. It's a rush hour. If only one person smiles at me, I will not jump off the bridge. He wrote that letter. And he walked, and next day they found the letter, but he had jumped already. Because there was from hundreds of people, nobody had the time to smile. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
We don't know who we are. And yeah, we go to any place, somebody's begging for something, and sometimes we judge them that they might be druggies, but for the grace of God go I. So you give them a couple of dollars, you give them some food, whatever you give them, and with a good heart, and smile at them.
Yeah.
You never know what somebody's going through, right? And then sometimes you smile, nobody smiles back at you.
Yeah.
But instead of getting upset, doesn't matter. You did your part.
Yes.
Every time you walk, there's a person walking with a dog or something. Just saying hello. I mean, you never know who the person is, what they're going through. So we got that opportunity all the time.
Yes.
And giving people the benefit of doubt when somebody does something wrong, and giving them the best possible interpretation can also make a difference in their outcome, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's no shortage of opportunities to give every single day and every single moment. Even in this chat, there's a way to give each other, right? By acknowledging what somebody says. That can also be a big part. She said about intangible, powerful statement, and you acknowledge and build on it is also some way of acknowledging other people what they say or what they do. This morning when you came in chirpy as you always come, there's your chirpiness and say, oh, here's Shari back at her toes, right?
Yes, yes. Like what you said, Azim, when you said always give people the benefit of the doubt. Because in this crazy world, we always have doubts. We tend not to trust people. Most people tend to look for the negative side rather than the positive side.
Yes.
How do we give people the benefit of the doubt?
Yeah, I think I'm sure you've been in a situation where somebody has judged you adversely when you've been so kind, and yet the person has felt that you are kind of trying to show off or it's insincere. And how does it feel, right?
Yeah.
What can you lose? If Farzana hurts me, if I don't give her the benefit of doubt, then I'm always upset with her and doubting her. Who's losing? I'm the one losing. Yeah. But if I give her the benefit of doubt, maybe she didn't mean it because she's a good person, or give her the best possible interpretation. Even if it's not true, I'm sure it's true with her, but even if it's not true, I still feel better because I'm not now reacting. I'm not upset. I'm not sad. It doesn't affect my prayers, my food, my sleep.
Yes.
So because it's about forgiveness.
Yes.
Forgiveness is the perfume the flower gives to the hand that crushes it. If you pass by a flower, the flower gives you perfume. Either you're black, you're white, you're purple, you're yellow, you're girl, you're boy, you're rich, you're poor. The flower gives perfume.
Yeah.
If you crush the flower gives more perfume. This is a lesson we learn from nature, that when you do that, you're feeling good, you're feeling light, you're not carrying any baggage. But if you're always giving people judgment, then you're always going to doubt everybody, and in the process, you're going to be the one who's going to be the biggest loser.
Exactly. And your life will be heavier, negative. What you emit also comes back to you, right?
Absolutely.
If it's positive, then positive.
The way you see the world is not how the world is. The way you see the world is how you are. If you're good, you see good. If you're bad, you see bad, right? So sometimes when you see too much bad, go back and say, where is the source? I remember one thing. Whenever I become defensive, and we all become defensive, right?
Yeah.
Whenever I do that and I go deeper, I find out I was defensive because what they were saying was true. If what they're saying was not true, I don't have to become defensive. So sometimes we want to be defensive because we feel, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
But when you say that, when you go later on to really reflect on it, why did it happen? Why did you get to defend? Because maybe what they were saying, there was some element of truth there.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize that, there's room for improvement.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Anything else to add, Farzana?
No, I think Azim covered it a lot. I do want to ask you though. You asked us when there was a profound moment when you got to serve. Was there one for you?
Thank you for asking that. I was brought up in a Catholic school, and we have always been taught to serve, to help the people around us. Like our school was in the middle of a squatters area. Here we call it like homeless people, but we have little shanties. We would always go out like on special occasions, not just on special occasions. There would be a day that it's called fundraising day for our neighbor in the school. And there is that in the service of others. It has been ingrained in me. Me and my sisters, we grow up in a school and in a community that values giving yourself to others. So I could not say a defining moment, but I grew up knowing how great it is to serve.
Yeah.
Like when I said that you experience joy when you serve, that's not just for others, that's for me too. Like, oh, I'm so happy when I'm able to do something for others. So I find myself blessed to be able to do that for others. And when I see my daughter doing the same for others, wow, what a great satisfaction. When people will say, your daughter is kind.
But it's a reflection on you and your husband and your family, right?
Mhm.
Because you've showcased that. You've said that's a part of who I am, and they see that every day.
We talked about in our masterclass the concept of namaste. Namaste means nam is to bow down, aste is to you. So we talked about the divine in you is bowing down to divine in somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if that's a reverence you give everything? And remember, God is everywhere, right? In a bird, in a rabbit, So when you treat God's creation with that kind of reverence, they feel good, you feel good.
Yes.
And people watching you feel good.
Yes.
This is the beauty. If you see somebody crossing the road, blind person, and this kid is helping the blind person, So you can see the kid is happy helping the blind person. The blind person is happy being helped. And
Yes.
you watching gets helped.
Yes.
Instead, if you see somebody who's mean
Yeah.
and is hurting somebody, taking somebody in a wheelchair with so much anger,
Yeah.
the person who's doing that is feeling angry. The person sitting on the chair is getting, you watching, you feel also.
You get angry.
Can you believe the multiple benefit of good act versus bad act?
Yes. I like
So
that.
yeah, that's a multiple multiply.
Yes. I wanted to share the biblical quote that I've learned, like, whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, that you do unto me. Right? So whatever we do to others, we do it to
Because the
our
brother is
Father.
part of God, right?
Yes.
And what in the God of that other person, you are hurting the biggest,
Yes.
biggest creator, right?
Yes,
absolutely.
yeah. And I would just like to share, there was a point that I realized you should think not less of yourself, but think more of others, right? Yeah, you're thinking more of others does not make you less, right? You have to consider that. And humility is actually service.
Yes.
Every person you meet is in some way your superior. And in
Yes.
that, you get a run of him or her.
True.
When you realize that, you realize, okay, I might be good in something, but somebody else is better than me in something else, right? So if you realize that, then you treat people with respect and you
Yes.
create synergy and you create teamwork and you learn from each other
Yes.
and you create a bigger pie, right?
Correct. Yeah. And you become better, right? And you see the person better as well. And life just becomes better.
It's true.
I would just like
very
to
true.
say that, right?
Yeah.
Farzana, how does service ignite your spark?
Every day. It just, it's just anything, right? When someone asks you to do something and they say, thank you for doing that, I don't say you're welcome. I say my pleasure. Because as Azim said, it's a privilege to help people. It's a privilege to serve. And you can't take that for granted because it can be taken away. It can easily be taken away, and it can be taken away very drastically or very subtly, but it can be taken away. So don't take it for granted because it is a privilege. So, yeah, I think it's very important. Like, yeah, it's every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of two extreme examples. Somebody does something good to you. Okay. Just like for a birthday, and you appreciate that person sincerely and genuinely, such that your appreciation becomes much more powerful than the act itself, because the other person feels so good that they
Yeah.
were acknowledged for what they did so lovingly. And I just experienced that, right? And I feel I got the reward for what they brought for me and how they treated me. But me acknowledging made me feel so good that I could acknowledge in a very sincere and loving manner, and the other person also felt that.
Yeah.
So can you see the power of, that's a simple
Yes.
example.
Yeah.
The most profound example is that by putting my hand up to go to Pakistan to work with the Afghan refugees, I went through an experience that made me change my life
Yeah.
and made me find my purpose. The highest thing you want to find in your life is purpose.
Yes.
And I found in a tiny, small hut. So just by putting your hand up can be the smallest thing, which has big impact, or can be the biggest thing that can change your life and your career and your purpose, which people spend all their life looking for purpose and never finding and dying. It's like the biggest genius lies in the graves. People have died never finding their purpose. And you can find it from a small, tiny hut because you put your hand up.
Yeah.
So that's the power of service, right?
Yes.
From the extreme to the...
Yes. Not finding your purpose is a tragedy in life. Yeah. So just giving a part of yourself, taking time out, take time to breathe so that you enjoy the moment, that you enjoy the things that you do. I would like to expound on what you've said, Farzana, that when you serve and when you just do something for the others, it's a privilege. It is a privilege to serve. And I am happy that all of us have the privilege to serve.
So much other stuff. So you're stressed for time, and then there's so much service required. So how do you manage everything? And sometimes you want to say yes, or sometimes you want to say no, and you feel bad about it. So how do you juggle then? How do you make your decisions where to say yes, where to say no?
Would you like to start, Farzana?
Sure. It's very simple for me, Azim. I would say to you, I bring my family along. I bring my family along in the journey of whatever I'm doing to serve. And
They make it lighter.
and it makes it a little bit lighter for me. because they understand the importance of what I want to do. It's a conversation we have in our home when somebody calls and says, especially if it's a bigger position, it's a conversation we have in our home together as a family. Okay, this is what's come up. What do you think? Do you think it's a good idea, bad idea? How do you feel about it? Right. And each year we reassess to see what's happening. And you bring, for me, it's helped, especially when my kids were very young and I was serving. They were a part of that because they helped me.
Yeah.
You know, we had an opportunity to put kids' books into our libraries in our Jamaat Khana, and we'd never done that before. And so my kids and I went to book swaps, and they would help me pick out all these books. And we had like boxes of books that we put together, and then we took to each of the Jamaat Khanas and we left them in the library, and they did this grand opening, right? Like it's their way of also helping, but it brought the load lighter for me because they were there to support it and help me at the same time. So I think that for me is the biggest thing. When you bring people that are close to you alongside within that journey, that privilege is not just for you, it's for them as well. And it just lightens the load.
That's beautiful. Azim, your question was, how do I juggle things
And
that
you
I
have a
do?
busy life,
Yes.
and because you're good at what you do, you get a lot of invitation to help,
Yes,
right? In many
yes.
ways. How do you, sometimes manage to do everything, or how do you
Yes.
juggle?
I do not do everything. I choose to do the things that I would find the more impact. I think I've learned that from you. Prioritize your priorities. Before I just, like in the last session when we have shared that do. Now I make sure that I only do find impactful, what feeds my soul. I love what I do with eFry that is so much aligned with my purpose. I love what I do in podcasting. It feeds my soul and makes a positive impact too. I love what I do when I spend time with my family and friends. It gives me joy. So I choose what I do. I do not do everything. And I think the people that I know knows that about me, because when they invite me to a certain event or something to do, I would say immediately, no hesitation, no thank you, I'm doing this instead. So, and they don't take offense because of how I say it, right? I choose to be funny and I tell them the truth, and they get to appreciate that.
No, I great. I think I like that. Yeah, it's a struggle sometimes. Because you want to help everybody and do everything, and you want to not say no because you feel it's a privilege to serve. And I struggle with that in many ways in terms of. But as you said, I think try the best to weigh the way you say no almost seems like a yes.
Yes.
Because either you find a way to have somebody else help them, or find a way to take up something else that you're better at doing. And that juggling makes, that you don't not egotistically say no, but you
Yes.
say no that makes people feel it was the right decision.
Yes.
Because you have limited time, you can only do great work if you focus on what you're great at.
Yes.
Otherwise, you cannot do great work.
And sometimes, like what in our conversation today, we've talked about, like, how do you walk away if you can't do something? And you know what? It's okay to say, right now, I need to take a break.
Yeah.
Because you're taking a break mentally, physically, something might be coming up with your family that you need, that's an urgent that you need to deal with, right? There's so many different factors, but it's also okay to say, yeah, I'm taking a break, but if you're really, really, really stuck, call me. And if I can do it, I'll be there.
That's wonderful.
Right.
Yeah. You are really into service.
Oh, I really am.
I love it.
It really is.
And the
Yes.
whole family is
Yes,
so much.
That's
invested.
Very blessed, very
amazing.
blessed.
Amazing. Okay, so if there's a line or two that you would like to share with our audience out there so that they will also experience the joy of being in service to others, what would you say to them?
Wow. I think today I would say to them, if you feel like you're successful and you haven't served yet, turn that around. Serve and see how successful you become.
Wow, love that. Azim?
Yeah, I think if you want to find lasting happiness, best way to find lasting happiness is to give lasting happiness. So the more you give others happiness, the more you find your happiness. So all of us, if you ask any rich person or any successful person business-wise, what do you want out of life? They'll say, I want money, I want a house, I want this, I want that. But if you ask them, why do you want that? And they'll say, I want this because it'll make me happy. So happiness is what we're looking for. And Irony is that all the other stuff doesn't really bring you happiness. It's really doing service and giving other people happiness and doing the good stuff that brings happiness back to you. And it's free to be a serving, right?
Yes.
And you don't need money, you don't need title, you don't need knowledge. You just need an intention.
Yes.
And give of yourself. For the more you give of yourself, the best way you give something to other people is to give of yourself.
Yes, I like that. Yeah. It's not just what we intend in doing and being, it's what we actually do and become that is already in service of others. Thank you so much for being with me today, for
Thank
Zana
you.
and Azim.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share that on the comment section of the podcast. And by the way, Life Expressions is now streaming on Amazon Music as well. So we're streaming on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you like to listen to your podcast. I'm Chari Hineta Elon. This is Life Expressions. Do not forget that there is beauty in service and be a positive impact in all that you do, wherever you are, however you can. Till next time, here on Life Expressions.